Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So, cup of coffee number 2 just went down, and yes, that was very much needed because I was up very early this morning working on the first episode from today on Elder Brain. This is a brutal new card from the Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate set, which is coming out in quite some time, I believe early June-ish? Regardless, yesterday we got to see some exciting spoilers from that set, including this one, as well as a brand new exciting Planeswalker commander, which involves a hamster named Boo. Who doesn't love that? But this episode is not about a hamster, it is about a brass dragon, which apparently is a thing. Anyways, it's a sweet mythic dragon that is very powerful and has an incredibly powerful effect, so let's jump into it. Ancient Brass Dragon is a 7/6 Elder Dragon, and I believe, please correct me below in the comments if I'm wrong on this, this is the very first Elder Dragon that is not legendary, so please let me know if I'm wrong in that, but that sounds right. Anyways, it costs 5 black. And it has, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20. That's right, d20s are back in this set, and yeah, that's probably to be expected, you know, since they were in the last Dungeons & Dragons set. Regardless, when you do, put any number of target creature cards with total mana value X or less from graveyards onto the battlefield under your control, where X is the result. That is a massive effect. This can be a gigantic reanimation, you know, on top of just having a 7/6 flying Elder Dragon that can just smack someone for a ton of damage. You get to reanimate a lot of things, or should I say potentially a lot of things. It depends on your roll. But yeah, even with just an average roll of around a 10, that's going to be at least, you know, 1 or 2 decently large creatures that you can get from graveyards. And, you know, if you happen to roll that 20, you're getting a ton of things. Also, keep in mind it says from graveyards, not specifically from your graveyard. You can get creatures from anyone's graveyard. So this heavy hitter can get you even more heavy hitters, and maybe those are your opponent's heavy hitters, and you hit them with their heavy hitters. And I'm saying heavy hitters too many times. Coffee. I am out of spoiler season shape. Anyways, now keep in mind, obviously, to actually get this trigger, you do have to deal combat damage to a player, but chances are you're going to be able to get through on at least one player because flying is a fantastic form of evasion. Regardless, because this is a combat trigger that is tied to damage on a player, you can also use and abuse that and actually get even more value out of this. So let's jump to some things that you might want to consider, ways to take advantage of this card, and commanders that might want to consider this card as well. First up, we have got to talk about cards like Fire Shrieker, Relentless Assault, and Morog, Fury of Akum. Fire Shrieker is a very simple but very effective equipment, especially with a card like this one. It says equip creature has double strike, and yeah, giving this mythic dragon double strike is incredible. First up, it's going to be hitting for 14 damage in total, which is a ton, and secondly, and more importantly, you're going to get that combat damage to a player trigger twice when you hit that player. That means you get to roll 2d20s and get even more creatures out of graveyards. Speaking of which, of course, you can also take advantage of something like an extra combat spell like Relentless Assault. It says untap all creatures that attack this turn after this main phase, initial combat phase, fall initial main phase. Basically, you get an extra combat. So again, you swing with Ancient Brass Dragon and whatever other creatures you hit with Ancient Brass Dragon, you get creatures out of graveyards based on a d20. You cast this, then you say, cool, I get to do this all over again and reanimate even more creatures. And of course, there are even creatures that do this as well, like Morog, Fury of Akum, which basically has landfall, extra combat. So this very well might be a creature that you end up reanimating in the right deck. You know, you get this into your graveyard, you reanimate it with your dragon, and then you play some lands and you have a great time. And a really fun play along those lines is reanimating an opponent's Sakura Tribe Elder to sack it to get a land to then do it again. So yeah, many fun times can be had with this dragon when you decide to take advantage of that trigger as much as you can. Speaking of which, of course, you can do that even more so with cards like Ceramic Resonator and Lithoform Engine. Ceramic Resonator has pay 2, tap, copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose targets for the copy. So for just 2 mana, you can again roll another d20 and essentially reanimate more things. So yeah, that is well worth the 2 mana. So of course, I also need to bring up Lithoform Engine, which has basically that pay 2, tap, copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You can choose targets for the copy. Because, yeah, we'd like to do that again. But with this, we can also copy instant sorceries, and we can also copy permanent spells that we control, so, I mean, it would require a ton of mana, but just imagine having 2 of these Ancient Brass Dragons in play. That would be fun. Well, for us. Anyways. We can also make the most out of our dice rolls with cards like Barbarian Class and Pixie Guide. Barbarian Class's level 1 says if you would roll 1 or more dice, instead roll that many dice plus 1 and ignore the lowest roll. And then Pixie Guide is essentially a creature that says the exact same thing. Obviously, these do not guarantee good dice rolls, but they give us another shot at it at least. Rolling 2 and taking the higher result is going to give us a lot of extra advantage throughout the game and help us get even more creatures or even bigger creatures out of graveyards. But we can also ensure that we actually get the right creatures into our graveyard with things like Violent Tumor, Auric Lore Mage, and Buried Alive. Violent Tumor is a 2/2 zombie warlock with Death Touch, and when it enters the battlefield, you search your library for a card, put that card in your graveyard, then shuffle. So this can be a fantastic tutor to get the right creature into our graveyard for our Ancient Brass Dragon to get out. And of course, it can be a repeatable effect. You know, this is a 2/2 with Death Touch, so it can be a great blocker. We block an opponent's creature, this is probably going to die as well. It hits our graveyard, and then maybe next turn, we swing with our dragon again, and then we roll something, get an amount at least to get Violent Tumor back into play, get that ETB again, and get something even better in our graveyard. And speaking of repeatable, Auric Lore Mage has tap, search your library for a card, put it in your graveyard, then shuffle. This ability obviously can come in huge in combination with Ancient Brass Dragon, setting ourselves up to get the right creatures in play. Speaking of which, there's Buried Alive, which is a sorcery that costs 2 and a black, and it says search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. So this can set us up for a massive play with this Brass Dragon if we get the right roll. But of course, like I mentioned, we're not limited to just our own graveyard and the creatures in it. We can also utilize our opponent's graveyards as well. So let's talk about cards like Fleet Swallower, Traumatize, and Maddening Cacophony. Fleet Swallower has, when it attacks, target player puts the top half of their library rounded up into their graveyard. So we can either mill ourselves with this lovely fish, or we can mill an opponent for a ton if we know that they've got some great creatures in their deck. And speaking of which, of course, there's Traumatize, which is a 5-mana spell that essentially does the exact same thing. But an even bigger spell for just 1 more mana is Maddening Cacophony, because when it's kicked, each opponent is going to mill half their library rounded up. So this can give us a ton of options for our Ancient Brass Dragon to reanimate for us. And even actually just casting this just for 1 and a blue is still going to mill each opponent 8 cards, which is what, 24 cards if we've got 3 opponents, so that is a ton of value as well. Yeah, Ancient Brass Dragon can work very well with mill strategies. So of course, let's talk about potential commanders that might want this card, like, a mill commander like Phoenix, God of Deception. Phoenix is a 4/7 indestructible god that has, as long as your devotion blue and black is less than 7, Phoenix isn't a creature, but more importantly, creatures you control have tap, target player puts the top X cards of their library in their graveyard, where X is this creature's toughness. Phoenix decks can be incredibly quick and efficient at milling players, and you know what? If you want to go in a direction where you take advantage of the cards that are in that player's graveyard, Ancient Brass Dragon might be a way to go. So while you're lowering the number of cards in that player's library, you can also lower their life total with their own creatures that you're reanimating, thanks to this milling and thanks to the Ancient Brass Dragon. And there's even a mono black commander out there that can be really effective with a mill strategy with Sir Conrad the Grim. Sir Conrad says whenever the creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage each opponent. So Sir Conrad essentially cares about when creatures go here or there or anywhere. So by milling players for a ton, when you hit creatures, you ping everyone, and then on top of that, when you get creatures out of your graveyard, again, maybe with Ancient Brass Dragon, you are going to, reanimate them and get them into play, which is fantastic, but on top of that, you get to ping everyone. So yeah, in certain Sir Conrad decks, I can definitely see this being a possibility. Next up, a commander with a very spicy play with this new Brass Dragon is Arami of the Dead Tide. Arami has tap exile cards from your graveyard equal to the number of opponents you have. Target creature card in your graveyard gains Encore until end of turn. The Encore cost is equal to its mana cost. Encoring basically means pay its mana cost, and you're going to get a copy of it for each opponent, and it's going to attack those opponents, and then those tokens go away. So, what's better than 1 Brass Dragon? Well, how about 3 Brass Dragons? And yeah, getting 3 triggers off of hitting each opponent, that is a dream play, especially for an Arami deck, which can be fantastic at milling itself and getting a ton of creatures into its own graveyard. So, roll 3 d20s, get a ton of things out, and have fun demolishing your opponents. Next up, how about Kali of the Vast, a fantastic dragon tribal commander, or should I say angel, demon, dragon tribal? Whatever you want to build it. Anyways, Kali has, when it attacks an opponent, you may put an angel, demon, or dragon creature card from your hand on the battlefield tapped and attacking that opponent. So you can cheat Ancient Brass Dragon out with this commander, and then you can cheat things out of graveyards into play with that d20 that you're rolling. And of course, in a deck built around Kali the Vast, you're going to have a lot of fantastic reanimation targets with all those giant angels, demons, and dragons in the deck. And of course, speaking of Dragon Tribal, I have got to bring up the Dragon. It has Eminence as long as it's in the command zone or on the battlefield. Other dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. On top of that, whenever one or more dragons you control attack, draw that many cards, then you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So yeah, this is a massive dragon, a 10/10 flyer that can hit incredibly hard. It saves you mana on your dragons, which is great again for a 7-mana dragon like Ancient Brass Dragon, now only costing 6. And on top of that, it gives you even more benefits when you attack with dragons, as if you needed another reason to swing with your Ancient Brass Dragon. And finally, Ancient Brass Dragon actually works incredibly well with Scion of the Dragon. Scion is a 4/4 dragon avatar with flying that has pay 2, search your library for a dragon permanent card and put it in your graveyard. If you do, Scion of the Dragon becomes a copy of that card until end of turn, then shuffle your library. So, think about this play. Pay 2, search your library for Ancient Brass Dragon, put it into your graveyard. Scion becomes a copy of that card until end of turn, so now it is an Ancient Brass Dragon. You swing, you hit an opponent, you roll that d20, and let's just say, on average you get a 10, so you get more than 7, so you obviously can now get your Ancient Brass Dragon, which you got into your graveyard with this, now out. For free. I mean, okay, technically you paid, the 2 to tutor for it, but still, come on. Yeah, this can lead to some really big plays, especially when you roll even better with that d20. But now as I'm wrapping this episode up, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on Ancient Brass Dragon. This Mythic Dragon is a heavy hitter that is going to see play even outside of Dragon Tribal. I mean, this trigger is really powerful, especially if you've got even more ways to take advantage of it with things like, double strike or get extra combats, etc, etc, etc. Just one swing can be game-changing with this dragon. You hit someone for 7, which is lovely, but then say you roll anywhere near a d20 and you can get a ton of creatures out of anyone's graveyards, and it can be just a massive play that turns the game around for you. So yeah, I can see a lot of players out there being really excited about this dragon, and of course, again, Dragon Tribal players out there, you've got yet another fun toy for your decks. And with that, the show has come to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you, so make sure you comment below and let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.